Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I've decided after 700 years of alleged oppression to drink a toast to deserving Irish and British Prime Ministers, because some of these were Prime Ministers of Ireland as well as Britain. And they organised it so that our four nations could become the four dominant races on the face of the earth. We've got William Pitt, who fought Napoleon. We've got the Duke of Wellington, who succeeded in defeating Napoleon. And don't forget the 12-year cycle. We've got Alexander, we've got Napoleon, we've got Hitler, we've FDR, we've got Thatcher. The 12-year cycle is very important in history. Also, it has some connection with the price of oil. Oil is very low in 2009. You add 6, you get 2015. Maybe it'll be very high in 2015. Earl Grey, well, I suppose he must have done something for the tea industry. Lloyd George. Now, Lloyd George has got a bad press, but we mustn't forget he was a Welsh-speaking liberal who in 1909, with Sir Winston Churchill, pushed through the old age pension, pushed through unemployment benefit, created a revolution in Ireland. Millions of pounds flooded into Ireland in that revolutionary year of 1909. That's why it was essential for Southern Irish capitalism to create the independence industry, which resulted in the reduction of the old age pension in 1923 and the elimination of unemployment benefit about 1931-32, the rounding up of the unemployed for every year thereafter, and they're exported gunpoint to the island of Britain, where they could be taken care of by United Kingdom Prime Ministers. That's the whole point. The Sinn Féin theory of self-sufficiency is we're not self-sufficient, and we must call on the United Kingdom to help us out. Is there anybody else? Oh yes, we've got Sir Robert Peel. Now, this guy and this guy here, whose name I think is John Russell, Earl Russell, whether it was Bertrand Russell's grandfather, father or uncle, I couldn't tell you, but he was a relative. These two have been blamed for the famine. Now, the famine is one of those extraordinary socio-biological, social Darwinist phenomena, a bit like the climate crisis we're hearing about right now. Every time you look at the whole notion of Malthus, when we think of the Reverend Malthus, we must think of these two men, we must think of the Irish famine. Because Malthus's theory that population will, especially in industrialized society, outstrip the food supply is very difficult to refute when you look at it straight off. But it works out to be crazy in practice. But the Malthus theory did result probably in the death of maybe 800,000 Irish people or 600,000 from starvation. Well, maybe a lot less. I mean, most of them died of disease. But the fact is, there was a part played in a conscious theory of population excess in the famine catastrophe. There was a theory behind it. But don't forget, this man here did feed 3 million Irish people twice a day for at least a year. It's very difficult to keep that kind of policy going in perpetuity. But the thing to remember about the famine is that if there had been a native parliament, more people would have died. There's no way a native parliament would have said, yes, our economy can handle this. Yes, we're going to stop the export of food. We're going to cancel free trade. They wouldn't have done it. And we couldn't have exported people to South Wales. We wouldn't have exported hundreds of thousands to the Liverpool area. We couldn't have exported hundreds of thousands to the Clyde Valley. We couldn't have got rid of them to Canada when America locked their doors. Basically, we'd have been stuck with an extra 1 million people. I guess maybe 2 million would have died. Don't ever imagine that a Southern Irish cabinet would have done better during the famine. It was a scandal, but it would have been a scandal anyway. Lloyd George. What this guy organised was the Six Nation League. In other words, Collins sold him the idea that the king could be the head of state of 6 nations within the empire, each of them with self-derived, self-conferred national sovereignty. The king, therefore, would be the King of Ireland in Ireland, the King of Britain in Britain, the King of Australia, and so on. This would be an Autochthony Act. The Autochthony Act was never passed, but at least Lloyd George and Collins agreed on the idea. And eventually, at 3:05 on the afternoon of the 6th of December 1922, King George V signed a bill into law which recognised that the 32 counties of Ireland had a sovereignty absolutely exterior to that of the island of Britain, because he accepted Article 1 of De Valera's document number 2. I won't bore you with the content, but that formula that Dev invented, a brilliant formula, round about mid-December of 1921, is the line, the sentence that was signed by King George V in Parliament almost exactly a year later. And that gave national sovereignty to the 32 counties of Ireland. That meant national dignity was achieved. It didn't matter that Ulster didn't secede. Australia has national sovereignty. The Australian nation is sovereign relative to all other nations. But the 6 political peoples within Australia are sovereign relative to each other. So it was accepted implicitly, if not explicitly. The South was sovereign as a state. The North was sovereign as a political territory. The nation was sovereign as a nation. And the distinction between the Tuatha na hÉireann, the peoples of Ireland, and Muintir na hÉireann, the people of Ireland, between the Lander and the Folk, between the Polis and the Ethnos, that we had a double-decker nation, a hologram, ruled by the Tara principle, not by the Dublin principle, ruled by Nuremberg, as it were, not by Berlin, by Delphi, not by Athens, by Uluru, not by Sydney or Canberra, and by Philadelphia, not by Washington, D.C. This was pioneered and came into law at 3:05 on the afternoon of December 6th, 1922. And autochthony did not reach Canada until April of 1982, didn't reach Australasia till spring of 1986. What else? Sir Winston Churchill. My God, it was under him that our 300 million people, the people of the empire of Cormac MacArt, restored the seeds of liberal democracy to the Protestant tabernacle over there.